Hello, I'm Caroline Fairchild, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, where the business conversation begins with you. It's that time of year again where we release our top startups list, 50 emerging companies based in US that are growing, hiring, and disrupting. This year's top startups are responding to very specific and current and changing needs, the increasing demand for self-care, and exploring new frontiers in fintech, just to name a few. Here to break down those trends for us is LinkedIn News editor Ashley Peterson. Ashley, welcome to LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's do the big reveal right now with the companies that are on top of our list this year. Coming in at number one, we have Better.com, followed by Gong, Glossier, Discord, and Brex. Ashley, just tell us a little bit about how the list is different this year compared to last year.
Yeah, good question. So while our number one company, Better.com, is the same as last year, and I know the CEO will be on the show later, we are seeing a lot of new companies pop up this year. And we do naturally see high turnover year over year just due to the volatile nature of startups. But I think the pandemic has really accelerated the innovation and disruption that we're seeing. So two examples, Clubhouse and Discord are two communication apps that are showing up for the first time and in the top 10. And those are companies that really became popular over the past year or so as people were staying at home more and needed new ways to communicate and stay in touch. We're also seeing a lot of healthcare companies that are doing things digitally, even a QR technology company. So definitely seeing a lot of pandemic era trends throughout the list.
These startups, they're just responding to the changing nature of work and how the pandemic has disrupted a lot of the ways that we work, but also do everything. In terms of what the trends are, what stands out to you?
Yeah, so I mentioned health and wellness. I think that's a really big one. I already mentioned some of the healthcare companies. There's a lot in the wellness space that are really responding to the increasing demand for self-care. So Therabody is one. They make the famous Theragun massage gun. Lyra Health is a digital mental health care platform. I think even the beauty companies like Glossier and Youth to the People fall under this category. And Getaway is a fun one. They have mini cabin rentals near big cities like New York and LA. And then there's a lot of tech companies that are really pushing the future, the limits of possibility. So Relativity Space is a company that's printing 3D rockets. Neuralink is a fun one to watch. That's Elon Musk's company. They are making brain-machine interfaces that will be leveraged to help people with paralysis communicate via video, voice, and text messaging. And then a lot of finance disruptors in the space. So Better is one of them. Brex is another one that's returning to the list this year.
So much disruption. And as an aside, I'm a huge fan of my Theragun, which I got during the pandemic. Actually, the number one question I get, which I'm sure you get all the time, is how is this list compiled? We have so many startup founders who message us and say, how do I get on this list? What are the main drivers?
Yeah, very good question. So our list is entirely backed by unique LinkedIn data, and we're measuring 4 pillars specifically. And those are growth, engagement with the company, job interest, and attraction of top talent. And I'll go into each one in a little bit more depth. And companies must have at least 15% growth in order to even be eligible for the list. For engagement, we're looking at how non-employees are viewing and engaging with the company and its employees on LinkedIn. For job interest, we're looking at what rate people are viewing and applying to jobs at the company. And then for attraction of top talent, we're looking at how many employees these companies are actually poaching from companies on our LinkedIn top companies list. And that's released in the spring and features much larger companies like Amazon, Alphabet, JP Morgan, et cetera.
And if you're a job seeker, be sure to check out that list as well. Speaking of job seekers, Ashley, I'm looking at this team right now and seeing a lot of people who are looking for a job. Are any of these companies hiring, and what are they looking for?
Yeah, very good question. So while global hiring is kind of down across the board, as I mentioned, all of the companies on our list have seen growth, and nearly all of them are hiring and also responding to workers' increasing need for flexibility. So actually more than half of the 5,000 open roles across the startups on our list this year are for remote jobs. And most of them also don't require a college degree.
Remote work, it's the future. I'm doing it. You're in the office though, so I hope to see you there sometime maybe next week. Ashley, thanks for joining us on LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Ashley Peterson. She's news editor for us here at LinkedIn and the mastermind behind our list. So much work that she put into that, so just want to give her kudos. All right, let's get to the CEO of the number one company on our list. I want to welcome Vishal Garg. He is the CEO of Better.com and founder. It's a home ownership company focused on making it more affordable, understandable, and accessible. Vishal is a serial entrepreneur with experience in the fintech space. He received his undergrad in finance and international business from NYU. Vishal, congrats. Welcome to LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's such a surprise.
It's not just number one last year.
You don't expect, it's not like Rocky, you don't expect to win twice. So, I'm so psyched because it really, like last year was, maybe it was COVID, maybe it was other things. This year, it's that, our customers and our employees really think we're doing something better. And so thank you so much for the honor. It's really, really amazing to be here the second time.
Well, you're welcome, I guess. But we haven't done any of the work. This is all you showing up in the data here. I think what I want to know is, in terms of this last year, what has been different? How has better changed in the last year? You guys have been on this skyrocket. How has the last year been for you in terms of running the business?
I think last year we grew like 800% in revenues, and we were wondering, are we going to be able to do this? And this year started off with a total bang. Like we were thinking we were going to be flat or maybe up a little bit. And instead the first quarter, we were up like another, 100%. And I think I credit the team more than anything else. Our customers are coming, I think, in droves, and they're finding out more and more about us. It's not the easiest thing to go and buy and sell a home or get a mortgage or, do homeowners insurance during the pandemic. And so the same trends that helped were solidified this year. But the other thing was the team's winning attitude. It was like, well, if a customer's coming into the store, we have to help them. And, we got to get reinforcement. So we hired another 4,000 people this year. We doubled this company in the past 9 months from what had already grown. So we're like 15x bigger than we were 2 years ago. And then the team, my teammates like Sarah Pierce and Kevin Ryan, Diane, our CTO, we got a whole bunch of new folks and old folks coming together and just saying, if the customers are going to show up, we have to help them. And since our product itself is quite digital, right? There isn't anything, while the home is the largest physical thing anybody owns, the mortgage, the insurance policy, all those things are all digital. We were able to leverage our technology to be able to meet the customer demand in a way that I don't think we would have thought about 9 months ago.
Doubling the team during a global pandemic in a very competitive hiring market. How did you do that? What were some of the things that you had to change to make that possible?
I think we were always trying to have an amazing workplace culture, and we just had to really lean in to the idea that we're going to have to be remote for as long as needed. And in embracing remote work, it wasn't about just making our employees and teammates work hard. It was actually, how do we support them in every aspect of their life? People decided to have families. So, fertility, people decided that they were burnt out, or, mental health care for everyone. People were wondering, what do they do with the kids when they're staying home? There's no summer camp, or summer camp's not safe. So literally 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. PST, all day daycare, virtual daycare, where we would literally ship out stuff for these kids in all of these better families to do, like hundreds on hundreds of like toys every single day for these kids to feel like they were still getting the benefit of something new and wonderful happening during their summer vacation. All of that together made us really a cohesive unit, and said, like, better makes home better for our customers, and better makes home better for me, because I make home better for my customers. And I think that's like, it's a totally different ballgame compared to.
It is a totally different ballgame, Vishal. And some of those perks that you just mentioned, fertility, perks for parents, how we're supporting mental health, those are table stakes now for startups. But this isn't your first startup. I'm curious how the pandemic has changed how you think about those perks in terms of their value for employees. And is it really the employees saying that they want this, or how did that evolution happen?
No, I think for me as CEO, when I was doing my first startup, I was kind of thinking about it from like, oh, okay, what do the consultants tell me is like the top tier benefits? What are now it's like, hey, I want this for me. I want this for everyone who works with me. And that's really it. Like, if I want it for me, I want it for my employees, I want it for my customers. And how do I make that happen? How do you leverage financial engineering? How do you leverage technology? How do you figure out how to like make it available at a lower price and in a much better fashion for everyone? And I think that that's forced us to be super, super creative. So we can't look at other companies and what they're doing. We kind of have to say, what would we do if this is, this is a family member, and treat them like that?
It's funny that you just said that you can't look at other companies and what they were doing, because I was just going to ask you about the other fintech companies that we have on the list. It was one of the big trends. We also have Brex, Ramp, BlockFi, and Gemini. There's nothing that those companies are doing that you're looking at and saying, this is a good trend, or this is something that's moving the industry forward?
Oh, I think they're doing an amazing thing. Like Brex is working amazingly on like reimagining the corporate credit card and, freeing up capital for companies and making it much easier for them to be able to consolidate the accounting functions and all that. I think companies are doing amazing things. I think in the context of employees, though, I think the pandemic has forced us to say what was previously like ludicrous perks or benefits are no longer ludicrous, because we need to treat our employees well if they're going to treat our customers well. We have to take care. We have a share. And I've been a capitalist since I came to this country when I was 7. I've been, I've read all the Milton Friedman out there, but there has been an over-aggrandization over the past 30 years of creating shareholder value and putting shareholder value above ecosystem value. And I think there's this realization that your customer pays the bills. Your customer is the one that decides whether you get to stay in business or not. And so they're paramount. And then your employees and your business partners who serve that customer, they come second and then third. And then if all of those people are satisfied and everyone is happy, then the shareholders just get the benefit of that. And so we have a really important value system, and we literally make every investor sign off on it when they invest in the company, which is the customer comes first, our employees come second, our business partners come third, and the investors come
right
first.
On the guided line, otherwise we'll get our money elsewhere, and you're getting big checks from a lot of places. So, all right, we've talked a lot about your massive growth, and that makes sense as you're number 1 on our LinkedIn top startups list this year. But this wasn't your first startup. Your first startup, which you launched before this, was during the last recession, and it didn't work out. I'm curious what that experience changed in terms of how you think about leadership, how you think about running Better.com.
I know. I don't pretend. So when I was running my first startup, My Rich Uncle, which was the first online student loan company, I was 27. It was NASDAQ listed. It was amazing. But I was always trying to sort of know what I don't know or pretend that I knew things. And it was always so burdensome. I was working 16 hours a day. I was trying to learn things. And at Better, I am like super free that I don't know stuff. I don't know it. I'm not the expert. I don't know this. I don't know that. I don't know this. Most of us don't actually know. And what I really embrace is the idea of, it's sort of this Buddhist philosophy of the beginner's mindset, which is, we don't know. Let's figure it out together. Let's roll with it. We're going to make mistakes. What do we have that other people don't have? We have the ability to learn from our mistakes faster. We have the ability to fail faster. We have the ability to work harder. So let's go. And if you're down for that, let's go. And you tell people straight up front, hey, I don't know. Customers email us and they're like, I can't believe the appraiser didn't show up on time. I was like, you're right. Appraisals suck. There's a pandemic and we're trying to make it the best of it. But, we're just like 5% of the way there. Work with us and, we'll hopefully make it better by the time your children, need to buy a house. And I don't think I would have ever said that, 15 years ago.
That's amazing. Honesty can go a long way, particularly when you're growing so quickly. You just mentioned some of the things that you think that your people differentiate for you in terms of the company, but you plan on going beyond mortgages. You're aspiring to go to new lending vehicles. What do you see in terms of the technology as the key differentiator as you venture into these new verticals?
So we're in this industry that the internet forgot, right? It's like Jurassic Park. It's 1975. People are still sending faxes, doing phone calls. Larry knows Mary, who knows Barry, and they're all like working together to get you closed. And what the platform provides is the ability to have all your data in one place, and it seamlessly matches you for the next thing that you need to get done, right? So what you don't know when you buy a house is, hey, you're going to need a mortgage, you're going to need a homeowner's insurance policy, you're going to need a title insurance policy. Maybe you should think about life insurance, particularly considering what happened with COVID. Maybe you should have disability insurance if you work in a job that, is something that requires you to driving around or being on a moped or, being on a construction site. There are all these things that are not cured. And so what technology really permits is the enablement of one, automation and digitization, but then two, recommendation in a way that is much more nuanced than what you would traditionally get from a person who doesn't necessarily know about all of these things. The other thing that you get is speed. So people want to buy a house. When people want to buy a house, they spend all their time, like 99% of their time, trying to find the house that they want to buy. They really don't want to spend a whole bunch of time in the checkout flow. That's kind of what we do, right? And so in the checkout flow, they want speed, they want certainty, they want to know that they're going to be able to afford this house so they can start dreaming about the next thing that they're going to do. The technology provides speed. So you can get pre-approved in 3 minutes, you can lock your rate in 15.
Wow.
You can't do that anywhere else.
Well, Vishal, my husband and I on a personal note have just started the house hunt. So maybe I'll hit you up offline after this interview for some tips.
Totally. Get a better realtor, get a better mortgage, get a better home.
We'll see. All right, let's say hello to some members who are joining us in the stream right now. We have Chris from New England, Juan from Chile, Stacy from Florida, and Jim from Indiana. I'm also seeing a ton of better employees joining us for this conversation as well. So hello to them. Thanks for joining us on LinkedIn News Live. Vishal, let's just talk about the massive growth and really put it in scale for the people who are joining us. You're at about 9,000 employees right now, and you told my colleague Devin Banerjee you want to get to 100,000 just in the next few years. And you're going to do that while going public. As you think about going public, as you think about this massive growth, what about the culture do you want to make sure it stays the same? And is there anything that you want to make sure changes?
I think the things that about the culture that we're scrappy, that we're like solutions focused, that we're working hard all the time, that we go above and beyond. I think those things need to stay the same. I think we take it very seriously. And the reason why they have to stay the same is that our customers are trusting us with life's most important financial transaction. The average customer at Better wires us 87% of their life savings when they choose to buy a home and close on a mortgage with us for their down payment. Think about that. 87% of people's life savings are being managed by us. 60% of their total wealth as Americans is being given to us to be the custodian and trustworthy partner of. So we can't mess this up. This isn't like. So we really focus on going above and beyond for our customers, and I think hopefully that doesn't change. What that will permit us to do is to be the one company in financial services and in home that a consumer can trust. I think post the credit crisis, there are such few companies in America that people can trust and to say where either, if you're not the product, if it's a free product and people use it every day, that you're not the product, that you're the customer. And on the other side, where if in financial services, it's not that you're a machine to be milked,
right.
Or a person to be milked.
A lot of opportunity there. A lot of opportunity there. Well, Vishal, you're not just trusting people. People are not just trusting you with their money, but 100,000 people, that's a lot of people to trust with their careers right now. I have two questions for you. How do you think you would be described as a boss? How do the people who you think work for you to describe you as a boss? And do you have any go-to hiring questions when you're trying to bring someone onto your team?
Sure. I think I would be described as someone who doesn't take org charts very seriously, someone who gives young people a ton of responsibility, and someone who focuses on people's potential rather than their credentials. I could also be described as someone who is difficult to work for because I have high standards. I expect speed, and I expect people to put in 110%. So that's kind of difficult, and I'm trying to work on that because not everybody can be on 110% all the time. I think, the part about what we're hoping to achieve, the number one question I ask people is, what's the worst job you've ever had? And I've asked them to describe like the worst job or the lowest paying job that they've ever had, because what I realized is that there are so many people with so many fancy credentials now, and everyone's, done so many amazing things. And I think a lot of that is driven by the internet and the availability of all the stuff. I think it's like, wow, does this person have common sense? Can this person do something that, is not very glamorous and do it well because it's a good job and it is a job that must be done? And if people can do that, if they can wait tables, if they can, clean bars, if they can, stock shelves, if they can do those things, they can do a lot of other things well. But if you can't do those things, you're not going to pick up the phone when the customer calls, or you're not going to respond to the email when the customer calls. You can be the smartest, best, most brilliant person. You must be really, really smart, but you're going to miss out on that little nuance when someone walks into your store and says, hey, can you help me with this?
And not have that scrappy nature that you said is so essential for better employees. Vishal, congrats again. Thank you so much for joining us on LinkedIn News Live. Maybe we'll see you back next year. We'll see how well you do.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, really honored. And thank you so much to LinkedIn for being such an amazing resource for us. Cheers.
That was Vishal Garg. He's CEO and founder of Better.com, the #1 company on our top startups list this year. All right, the space race is heating up with more and more companies entering both the aerospace as well as the aviation space. Our top startups are meeting them there as well. Here's what some leaders at those companies had to say.
Seems like every day there's a new aircraft or rocket being made.
SpaceX's Falcon 9 lifted off from here.
Virgin Galactic space flight.
Congratulations, the entire blue team.
This trend is thanks to billion-dollar startups that have their eyes set on the stars. 2 of them have made it on this year's top startups list, a list identifying the top 50 emerging startups in the US.
Boom Supersonic is building the first mainstream supersonic passenger airplanes. So think New York to London in 3.5 hours instead of 7. Think Seattle to Tokyo in 4.5 hours.
Relativity is an aerospace company. What we're trying to do is design, build, and launch the world's first wholly 3D printed rocket into orbit early in 2022.
But why is this happening now? And who are the people behind this trend? There hasn't been any significant advancements in the aerospace industry for almost half a century.
For 5 or 6 decades, aerospace was really dominated by the old Apollo era kind of technology. You had these multi-billion-dollar satellites up in space that had been there now for 30 years, and they just couldn't compete with the internet. Everything we did was bigger, more expensive, and took longer than the thing before.
So entrepreneurs have been stepping in to fill that innovation gap.
I think what's really exciting about startups and the role that they play is to be a bit of a shock in the system.
Aviation, it's an industry that mostly doesn't have startups. It's mostly got a lot of really old cultures, like Boeing and Lockheed and Airbus they're not young, innovative cultures.
Many of our other competitors that are a few years ahead of us, like Blue, like Virgin Orbit, they've really been able to inspire a generation of engineers and professionals.
I'm not sure I would have had the courage to do this if it weren't for looking at what SpaceX had done. And, here's somebody who came from PayPal and he built rockets and put stuff in space.
Now that people are making money from space, you've got venture capitalists coming in saying, okay, we want to participate in that.
And it's not just what SpaceX has accomplished, it's also improvements in tech making these startups a possibility. Take Relativity Space, whose entire premise is based off of 3D printing, a technology that wasn't popular until a decade ago. But what really drives any business is a viable market. Boom is narrowing in on the growing demand for travel. The UN says air travel is expected to reach 200,000 flights a day, double what it is now.
United Airlines wants to bring back commercial supersonic air travel. The airline has ordered 15 jets from Boom.
And Relativity is trying to build the infrastructure that would make space tourism possible. According to investment company Space Capital, in the last 10 years, there have been nearly $200 billion invested into space companies. But to make any of this possible, you need talent.
You need people who are willing to invest the capital of their own time and careers. And so that ability to go attract great people is absolutely part of the success story. There are opportunities for people who have had more experience, who've done a little bit of been there, done that, but like the idea of how can they break the mold. And at the same time, how can they take everything they've learned about kind of where the landmines are. And on the flip side of that, it's about people who are earlier in their career, who are super smart, super driven, but not necessarily having the most experience.
There is a small talent pool for this industry, which is making it hard for employers to fill some jobs, and there's a lot of them. Just on LinkedIn, there are over 27,000 open jobs in the aerospace and aviation industry, and Relativity Space alone is hoping to increase their headcount by 200 by the end of the year. So employers are looking outside the industry to find this talent.
Joining an aerospace company was brand new for me. I hadn't had any experience in this, but really was excited by the possibility because of what we're doing on both the aerospace side, the manufacturing side.
For me at Boom, it was a very heady thing to decide to go do this because here's the software guy from Amazon and Groupon. So I didn't have the resume for it. Aviation is a really interesting case study where you have incremental improvements, but you're not moving humanity forward. Courage is saying, I have the fear, I have the insecurity, I have the uncertainty, but I'm going to put aside that. I'm going to put all my attention into how to do it. And by the way, even if you failed, you tried. In that sense, you never lose. That's why we need founders. That's why we need startups.
Tomorrow, we're continuing our exciting top startups coverage with a look at the communication and messaging space with some leaders from that. You're not going to want to miss it. It's tomorrow at 3 Eastern here on the LinkedIn news page. I'm Caroline Fairchild. Thank you so much for joining us.